Good evening and welcome back to See You in the Dark. I'm your host, Michelle Roos. Last week, we kind of spoke about some of the monsters that I had encountered or the things that I seen. And decided that this week's episode should be about how that actually affects a lot of us when we're doing paranormal investigations. I know a lot of us, think that anything we see spirit wise is always the light. Could it be a loved one? Is it some ancestors visiting? What is it? Well, I've noticed that even on investigations, like when we're doing events, or even going into someone's home, they always think that everything comes from the light. Well, when you open those vortex or portals, whatever you would like to call them, we open more than just the light. Things always come lurking around the corners. And we spoke about that last week, and it happens in investigations too. You know, there's a lot of times that we go around and we know the history of the location. And so we ask questions, what year is it? How'd you die? Just little different things like that. And we feel like when we're getting those answers, oh, it's the mother lode. This is what we got. It's a good spirit. Only good spirits are here. That's all you ever hear. We don't want people to know there's any dark spirits because everything is just a good spirit. Well, when you start having a lot of groups coming in or just people investigating, there's times that what I call the baggage falls off and starts feeding to some of the darker side of it. They might have been lurking around the corner. They could have been just sitting back dormant because you got to realize spirit doesn't have time like we do. So we could go 10 years into them, it could be like tomorrow. So when we're talking about negative energy, they can stay dormant for thousands and thousands of years, and we would never know the difference. So were people back then when they were building their homes and having their livestock and barns, were they also getting some of the darker side? But back then, everything were demons or angels because everything was ran by churches. So, as we go into some of the investigations, we always try to explain to people make sure you talk to us, tell us how you feel. Are you getting sick? Different things because our body tells us all the time exactly what's going on. You might not hear it, you might not see it, but your body will definitely tell you if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Now, I know many of you guys are listening and you're probably saying, oh, no, no, every place I've been, it's been a great place. Everything's been just beautiful. It was the owners of the home, and, they had such a legacy, so the spirit's all great. But do you really know what went behind closed doors? What was going on? None of us do. Because remember, those are the things that don't get written in the books. So maybe one of your spirits that are there is a woman that was trapped because of the abuse she might have had when the doors closed and locked and the public wasn't seeing it. But that spirit having that darkness actually started creating a different type of darkness in there. And when some women might go there to investigate, they're thinking they're talking to her, but she's still hiding like she did back then. And you have something else coming at you. And I've noticed that a lot of women will say that it feels like there's hands around their throats or something's pulling on them. We've even had some people say they've been touched in spots that probably shouldn't have been touched. But again, we start going by, oh, it's probably they thought you were that person's wife or fiance. We don't want to talk about that bad stuff, but you have to know about it. And you probably have actually seen it or felt it. And, these locations, we try to help by having events. We give a percentage to them for historical preservation, and we try to abide by what they ask us. But there comes a time when you have a lot of people coming in wanting to investigate with you that their safety comes first. So we do tell them after we have them sign waivers to make sure that if something happens to them, that's just part of it. Oops, sorry, now you have become one of the spirits. No, that's just a joke. But we do explain to them that some darkness could arise. Doesn't mean it's always going to happen. It doesn't happen at every single place, but it can. And there's times people don't even know that it's happening until it's too late. There it reminds me of a story, went to a location. And when I talk about some of these locations, when you're talking about old hospitals, asylums, jails, you got to remember the people that were brought into these places when it was up and running. A lot of your prisons had the worst of the worst, and you can't think because they just passed on, because they said 10 Hail Marys, that everything was forgiven, that they're going to be angels, because that's not how that works. Whatever they were in life, their spirit's going to be the same, but tenfold. So you got to remember, if you had someone that was a rapist, a murderer, or anything like that, you're not going to be able to go to that prison and think he's going to sit there and play cards with you. He's probably going to do the same types of things or act out in those ways like he did when he was alive. When you go into asylums, back in the day, if you weren't normal, and what I mean by normal is what society thought was normal, people would drop off their loved ones at these asylums and just leave because they didn't want people to think they didn't have the normal. So when they would drop them off, they would never come back. So now you have a spirit that was just left somewhere and at an asylum where they were trying different treatments. How do we save these people? Now, I'm not saying that these doctors and nurses, were always cruel, because if it wasn't for some of those things, we probably wouldn't have medicine the way we do nowadays. But these people were used like pincushions. They done some horrific things to these patients. You know, a lot of the asylums started off as poor farms, a lot across the Midwest and probably in other areas. But you got to remember back in the day, if a husband passed before his wife, women weren't allowed to own any property. So they would lose everything, and whatever children they had, if they didn't have family to go to, they would go to these poor farms, a place to stay, but actually having to still work. Well, as they start transitioning those into some asylums, you got to remember those children and those women were still there as they were starting to bring in patients. So it wasn't just we're going to throw them out and then bring patients in. It was, this is a big enough building. Let's have some on this side and the others on the other side. So there was torment going through all of it. Think of the children that were, getting raised in these places and seeing some of the horrific things and some of the stuff they would do, when they thought you were schizophrenic. They would try to put you in those tubs and put you underwater just before death and then have you come back out of the water of drowning. I mean, think about that. And they thought that would cure it. It didn't. And think of how many of them that might have not come back up. So these are the last imprints of some of these people in these asylums, in the poor farm. Oh, and it gets even better because as the asylums were starting to lose the money, they would turn them into you that's right, nursing homes. Now you're transitioning the elderly into what was being done there. You would have different doctors, different nurses, but you still had the imprint of everything that was going on as when it was an asylum or when drifters were coming in when it was a poor farm, of the things that happened to the women and the children there. Now, when you're mixing all that together, that is a big pot of sludge. And to try to think that as you're going through that building, that everything that you're going to have is going to be unicorns, fluffy angels, anything like that, it's the furthest from it. You might hear kids and they want to play because their imprint's there. But at the same time, when I say darkness lurks, it lurks in the building. A lot of you guys are probably listening and saying, hey, I think this is right. I've seen this. But every place I've been, it's all been love and light. But ask yourself, was it really? Because what I have found is going to these places that there's more darkness in them than the love and light. These people are screaming for help. They're wanting to know what's going on. In one of the asylums, there was a lady that always tried to escape. She would always jump on the back of somebody to think they would take her right outside. To this day, she does the same thing. So, like when you're in her doorway, she doesn't want you in your room. She gets really, really angry. But if you step out just a little bit, you almost feel her jumping on your back because she's trying to escape. Even in her spirit life, she cannot escape that place. So when you have all that devastation, all that sadness, it just starts building up to all the darker stuff that can lurk there. And those are the ones that start trapping those spirits. Um, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but a lot of locations, if there is more negative energy than there is on the light side, it can actually trap those spirits in that location. They don't know what the light is. They don't know where to go. They haven't even figured out why they're still there. Why hasn't someone come and got us? But then the darker side keeps shoving them back into the same nightmare that they were living when they were alive. We go through some of these places. We want to abide by whatever is told to us. We want to keep faith. But at some point, when will a paranormal investigator go to a location and say, you know what? It's time to start telling the truth about some of these places. If somebody committed suicide, was there a couple of murders? Were they being abused by the staff? And if you're seeing this or you're getting it on all the electronics that we take, EVPs, light sources, whatever it is, do we actually post that on social media? Do we put that out there? The answer is no. We just put the EVP of, do you hear the little girl say hi? Or they say that I am still alive. But when we hear the growl or we hear the screams, you don't see that anywhere. And it makes me wonder, why are we hiding the darkness? Why is it that we can use negative in all sorts of things that we do? I mean, like we spoke before, you put something negative on Facebook and it will go viral. Everybody's got something to say. You put something positive, you can hear the crickets chirp. And that's the same when you start talking about the darker side of things, especially in the paranormal field. I mean, when you go out to some kind of land that was occupied by Native Americans, and there was a slaughter, and you can feel it. That slaughter brings up negative energy on that field. But we walk out on that field and we know exactly what we're feeling. We know exactly what it's responding. But then we sit back and go, oh, it's just sadness. Yeah, maybe. There could be some sadness. But what you're actually feeling is the devastation, the cruelty of what man was doing to man on that field. And now it has created this goopy lava type of stuff just oozing out of the ground. But we're going to sit back and go, nope, don't see it. Have no clue what that is. Have you ever sat back and just asked yourself why? I do that a lot. Why do we hide that piece? Why are we not telling the real stories? Why are we not changing the narrative? It really gets to me every time I go into a location and you hear the words, whatever you do, please, please don't say nothing if you get anything negative because we don't want to portray this location this way. What if we actually portrayed the location as is? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Not saying that it's demons, but it could be a great place for them to hang out because why wouldn't they? Because we're just going to trample in there and go, well, hello, spirits. How is everybody? I'm here to respect you. I'm here to give you all the love, give you everything that's just light and love and happiness. You know dang well that darkness is standing there looking at you going, oh, hell no. They have no clue what's going on. And that's why a lot of people end up leaving those places with attachments. And then they wonder why. Why did I get that? That place was just so happy. That place just has so much love. But why do I get this negativity on me? Why do I feel this way? Because you went in blind. You were not prepared. And that happens too when you go into residentials. When people call you, a lot of us, especially Riverside, Iowa Paranormal, of course, I call them RIP, we take a full intake, but we still take what they said and we make sure we go in between the lines when we actually walk into that home to find out, is this real? Is this something that's manifested? Is it dark? Are we just having grandma visit or mom or dad? We have to sit and look at all the angles when we do a private. And a lot of paranormal investigators do that. But when we go to do an event or a haunted location, it's like gloves off, have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just going to run through this building in the dark and just hope that I get something great that I can throw on social media and not paying attention to what's actually there that could hurt anybody in the group. And I got to say, I'm as guilty as anybody else on that. But when I had seen some people, especially when we go to some of the asylums, actually getting an attachment that actually morphed them during an event and couldn't get it off, that was an eye opener. That was a, oh crap, what did I do? And it didn't matter what we had, it took us hours to stop it. We had a family there and doing the experiments, just like any other team, to make sure these people are having a great time. Even though I was looking around, making sure things were safe, when that person morphed, that person tried to literally strangle and beat up his father. We got him outside. We did prayers. We did it all. And he said he was okay. Turned around, and that was the first time I seen somebody at an event's eyes turn straight black and wanting to lunge and hurt people. And of course, blamed myself because I should have been prepared. But I thought, well, look at all this positive energy going in here. We'll be able to handle it here tonight. And I was put in my place really quickly. Luckily for that gentleman, the further he got away, the better it got because it didn't follow. But here's the crazy thing, he wasn't the only one. 3 other people got attacked at the same time with the same type of things happening, not caring if they were alive, trying to hurt people at the event. And you're sitting here going, "How in the heck did this happen all at once?" I'll tell you, it's because I was going in there with my team saying, "We're gonna keep this all positive and beautiful," and was not prepared for the darkness that was waiting and was watching and knew when to attack. And it was when we were all trying to just giggle and have fun in the dark, that's when it showed itself. We had other people in the building while we're trying to help others. And a lot of them were like, "Well, why wouldn't you have told us? Why wouldn't you have done that? Why wouldn't you prepare us?" How do you prepare someone to say, "Hey, we got 3 people out here in the front. We have no clue what they're about to do." We thought we were saving them because they were in the building and they didn't have to see it, because I thought the more people weren't seeing it, the easier it was to get rid of it, not give it the attention. It got to the point where not a lot of people stayed there because it was attacking nonstop. And again, going to a location thinking, I've got all these people, their energy is high volume, everything is great. I mean, the vibrations were just off the hook. And then what happens? Just one by one, because it's been lurking, it's been sitting back. Don't know how long it's been there, don't know what made it actually want to do something, but we were the lucky ones. But not really. We weren't lucky. The only luck we had was that everybody that left that night never took anything home, never had any other issues. But that sure made me think, okay, this is the time I need to start really scanning and looking. You know, I told you how I see spirit, how I see different things, but I don't not always open. And when I go into some of these investigations, I don't stay open because of everybody's energy and stuff, will really drain me at that time. So I just stayed completely blocked that night and thought, this ain't going to be nothing. This is going to be a great time. Well, yet again, I was put in my place. And that's not the only location things like that have happened. There's been different times, even in privates, that not been told the whole story and things come at you, hurt the people you know, and really makes you think of some of the unseen things out there that you never thought would come after you. But we'll get into that right after this short little break. And I'm back. Three, two, one. Well, welcome back. It was kind of great just taking that little bit of break to kind of get my thoughts back in order before I tell you the story of trying to help someone. Now, mind you, I was actually trying to help this person. I was working with some other people, actually working with a church. And I thought I got all the information. Oh, I was ready. I was prepared. I'm like, I'm ready to go. This is battle. This is what I'm going to do. It's just a dark, negative energy, but I can handle it. So I took everything that I had, everything that I had written down, all the paperwork, just kept going over it and over it again, going, okay, something is not right. Wonder what's hurting these people. Why is it attacking the child? Just different little things. I get to this place, and then all of a sudden I find out that half the stuff on the paperwork wasn't true, that there was more things happening that was actually conjured up. So now I am unprepared because I don't know what they welcomed. And it was one who did welcome. The other one was upset. They were constantly fighting. The children were involved. But I kept hearing, well, I was doing nothing but love and light. I was bringing in beautiful spirits. I was calling in ancestors to help keep this house full of love. Well, that's not what they called in. I don't even know what it is. All I could say is there were things crawling on the ceiling that were, I call them crawlers. I'm pretty sure everybody has seen something similar where it's a half a body, long arms, scaling to top of the ceilings. Um, when you walk into a place and you see that on the top of the ceilings, and then you see things like long fingers coming around the wall by doorways, and you're trying to be professional, you're trying to make sure the family knows that you're okay, but your insides are just shaking. I was terrified. Yes, I am one of those investigators. I actually get terrified because you got to remember, I'm working with spirits. I don't know exactly what they can do to me. I know the ones I speak for, but because I do that, the other ones come around too. And that's something that, a lot of us forget. We're just talking to one spirit, but we forget maybe all the other ones that that portal or vortex, whatever you're working with, has let in. And I started trying to figure out how I'm going to help them. Thought I had it all together. Next thing I know, I am getting physically sick. My head is pounding. My nose starts bleeding. I feel like I can't hold down what I just ate. And every time I got around the people, Um, especially the couple, I kept feeling like they were about to just grab me and tie me up, and it was like a bad horror movie. But the more I started seeing that darkness and noticed because of what was said to me and what I was walking into, I will honestly tell you, I thought it was going to be a dang sacrifice. I got pretty beat up mentally, physically, spiritually. I will tell you, I left that place, and shame on me, or maybe not shame on me. I never went back. I figured, they had manifested so much stuff in their house. There was not enough power in me to take care of it. And the bad thing is, they were complaining about it. They wanted help, but they didn't want help. And I went in full-heartedly. I'm going there. I'm their warrior. I'm going to help them. Their house is going to be the best place ever. They're going to have it all. Misjudged it all. So, of course, that's how I got attacked. But let me tell you, it doesn't happen to me all the time. I just want to tell you guys the truth behind a lot of this because I know I'm not the only one out here that things like that has happened. And there's a lot of investigators out there that won't even talk about it because I don't know if you call yourself a paranormal investigator, if you're supposed to be like Superman, Wonder Woman, or the Marvels, but you got to remember we're dealing with stuff that's unknown. You know, I have had other friends and colleagues that are, psychic mediums that have said, "Oh, no, it's just a child," or "No, it's just a lady." And to find out after I go in, it's neither. It is something that has just not been from this world. It's not even earthbound, never has been. You can get manipulated so easily in this field. You can get manipulated because we get so excited because everybody's looking for the answers from the other side. And sometimes the other side can manipulate you just as much as it can on your physical side. And this is where a lot of us just will not say nothing. We won't put it out there. You got some people that will talk about certain things, but just enough. So even when you're doing private calls or you're doing any paranormal investigations in, public locations, you always have those two sides. And we've been to a lot. We were actually at this mansion, beautiful inside. And everybody was like, it's so nice in here. It feels warm. You feel welcomed and all that. And I'm like, this is exciting because we're going to do something. We might get some great evidence. And of course, that's why we all do it. Everybody wants to get some evidence. So you have people that bring out all their equipment. They're excited to do things. And things are just going great. But as you're starting to open that communication up with spirit, even for the good spirits to come through, you got to remember when that light is open for them to pass through back and forth, other things can creep out of those. And we forget that piece because when we're getting all this, the lights going off or, sounds are going off, we think we're on the right track. But then we forget something else can come out. And that happened at this place. We were down in the basement doing a session, and we're thinking we're just talking to just some ordinary kids. And then all of a sudden, the house flipped itself. And I think sometimes I always say, maybe it's me because I can see the darker side of things or I see the anguish in them. But I'm like, I started just following different things and found out no, it's when we all go and investigate. It's when we're all out there opening these portals to communicate with the other side. We're putting ourselves right there on that line. And you got to remember, you have to have that balance. I say that so much. It's the balance of light and dark. And dark, like I said, doesn't always mean demons. Dark can be dark entities of some sort. And you get a lot of those. We have, look at all the despair we have now. I mean, we have wars, we have killings, robberies, all that kind of stuff is happening now. Well, with that kind of energy, it can actually form that type of negative energy in anything on the spirit side because everything just accumulates. That energy just keeps going and going and going. And I think we forget that little piece. I think we just think this can't happen. That's not a thing. But it is. And we've all learned, and I know there's a lot of you listening out there that know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is, we've all been there, especially a lot of our psychics who have had tremendous psychic attacks because of those kind of things. We psychics and different mediums, they will all get attacked one way or the other and manipulated. There's been many times that thought I was talking to one and I finally got that not so right feeling. And I had to say, I need to see your true self. And that's when it would show itself. And, I wish I was that one that could give those love notes, that would say all the pretty things that need to be said, the ones that make all the living feel great. But I'm actually the one that's saying, you need to watch yourself. You got to remember when you say it, I'm talking to my mom because I lost my mom, or I'm talking to my child because I lost my child, or my loved one, my partner. I talk to them every night, let them know how much I miss them, let them know how much I can't handle being here without them. You have to be very careful when you're doing that because you're opening it up for one of those to come through and make you feel like you're talking to them. Always have something that you have smelt or felt of any sort when they were alive, so only they would be able to give you that so you know it's really them. And that's the truth. When you have a darkness coming through, it doesn't know a certain perfume smell. It doesn't know a certain pipe smell. It doesn't know exactly how your hair was brushed or touched by your mom or anything like that. Those are the signs you really need to keep an eye out when you're doing that. The only thing it can do is give you the evidence of somebody's here. Or if you're using a recorder and you say, Mom, is this you? And you'll hear, yes. Those are the ones you have to watch out, especially if it's pretty quickly. It's not saying, please don't take it, as I'm saying, that can't happen. But always make sure you remember there's something else part of it to know for sure that it is the loved one that you're speaking to. Because anything can come through and say yes, or move something on the counter. Dad, if that's you, can you move the salt shaker? You've got to be careful because those dark entities can actually do that and they can do it quicker than your regular spirits because their energy base is more on the negative side. So they have more of that power. So you have to remember when you're doing that you are talking to someone that is your loved one. Remember the touch, the smell, and something that actually will make you mentally remember. And the smell could be a perfume, a cologne, a baked good of some sort. If it was like grandma's famous cookies, sometimes you will even get the taste. If it was a taste of something that was made all the time and you remember that, that will actually happen. You will be thinking that you're actually eating that. Then you know it is your loved one that is actually there with you. You don't get any of those, I would be second guessing who you're speaking to. And again, this is all doing it in the paranormal. You know what I mean? I have to do that kind of stuff. When we have the investigations, loved ones do come through when we're at an investigation because we're opening up those portals so all can come through. And there are messages for people, but we always make sure they know those are the things you need to watch. You're probably thinking, oh God, this girl must be on crack. But I promise you I'm not. Um, this is things happening to me in my life for so long that I am still learning things and trying to navigate through all those, whether it's just a fun night with the team or with an event with having a lot of strangers coming together as one to enjoy a night or trying to help a family that's desperately in need. So a lot of those bumps in the roads that I have hit is still teaching me lessons every single time of here are certain things that you need to look out for. And I can tell you, every location I go to, it doesn't matter. Even a cemetery that is supposed to be tranquil, I always go in thinking I'm going to see that dark before I see anything else. And I think we all should be doing that because if you don't see the dark at all, that just makes it, 100% great for you. But if you go in trying to deny that it's there, that's when you're going to come out hurt or somebody in your family get hurt because of it. So we have to kind of learn how to step back and just think, even though I'm a paranormal investigator or whatever you want to call yourself, not going forward, always thinking, I've got this. I know exactly what it's like because I'm going to tell every one of you guys, none of us, none of us are professionals at this. And if you say you're a professional, I want you to call me to let me know because I want to know what you know to make you that. Because every single time that I go somewhere or do something, I always learn something new. Every time. I learn different ways of speaking to them because you can't speak to all spirits the same. We can't go asking every spirit, hey, how are you? Or I'm here. I come with respect and I'm going to be very nice. That spirit's going to look at you like you're crazy. If you're in an area that, spirits didn't like to hear women talk because they thought it was the public, then you would maybe have a man ask the questions. Those are just little things that you can see that you learn each time. And don't get me wrong, the team, myself, and anybody we've ever been with, we always go in these locations with full respect of the location because we don't know what kind of spirits we are going to encounter. But if we're getting bullied by one, we're not going to back down, and we have to make sure they know that they can't bully us. But we don't do it in a rude way. There are some that out there that do that, but we don't. But we never sit and do the whole kumbaya when we're sitting in the dark hallway, thinking that every spirit's going to answer us for that. Because when you got those dark ones hanging around, that negative energy, sometimes you just need to speak to them just in a little different tone. So, as we're talking about different types of paranormal, and that paranormal can be seen anywhere. I mean, if you want to, I'm pretty sure if you go to a Walmart, you could probably get some great EVPs there. That was just kind of a little joke, but not really. The thing that I want to continue with this show is just letting people know that is okay to say, hey, some of the hauntings I've been around or something that I have dealt with my whole life was never the whole happy go lucky. It's been following me forever. It's been tormenting me, and I don't know what it is. And I've tried everything. I've tried all the spiritual things, I've tried it all. And that's kind of where we want to go with this. We want, I want, let's say, to know some of your stories. And I did get a couple of messages from the last show, people reaching out, and I want to thank you for that because I think that's an amazing thing, and I want to offer it to anybody to have you on the show. You don't have to use your real name, but I know you guys have all done the same as me. You've probably been kicked around a little bit by spirit world, but this is how we all learn together, and this is how we help each other. And definitely, I'm not a one-man show. Um, I do have a team. They've all had their experiences, good, bad, and different, but we've always had to come back to each other and talk about it. And I know there's a lot of you out there that have never really been able to talk about it because it still doesn't make sense to you. But I want you to remember not everything is completely dark, not everything is completely light. Make sure you know that balance as you're going out, even if you're going to start doing your own investigations. Just make sure you know there is that fine line, and you could probably get either one. And just kind of, go with the respect going in there. But also remember, you need to get that respect back. If you're working with intelligent spirits, they know how to give respect just as much as you do. And it's okay to ask for that. It's okay to put that boundary there. And if you're still developing, with your psychic abilities or different spiritual abilities, it is okay to tell them, not right now. It's okay to say, I need a minute, or put that boundary around, whether it's like myself, my home is my sanctuary. I have protection on the outside of my home and on the inside. My home, no spirits allowed. And I'm very open and verbal about it because I have to be able to go away. Has things tried to creep in? Absolutely, they have. But I had to stand my ground. And that's what you'll have to do too. And yes, we do want to go and we want to find those beautiful spirits, and they're out there. Don't get me wrong, they are out there. But at the same time, just be prepared that there could be other things along with them. And always remember that there is no story out there that hasn't probably been heard or happened to another person. And I think it's time that a lot of us start opening up about, you know what? There's more out there than just beauty. There's also that dark cloud that shadows over everything. And then we kind of work on it trying to clear it out, especially if you got trapped spirits. And sometimes that's why they're doing it. And doesn't mean that all negative energy will show itself. Doesn't mean you're never going to run into a spirit that's just so frustrated because they've been trying to get your attention and they don't realize you can't actually hear them or you can't actually see them. So they might slam some doors or they might open some, cabinets or whatever. Doesn't always make them really bad. So please understand that because they also get frustrated because they're probably trying to get your attention and they don't realize not everybody can't see them or hear them. But also keep your guard up just in case. I think that as we keep wandering through this paranormal paradox of different things, we have to remember we're in it all together. We all see them, feel them. I mean, could you imagine if we could all see things of what certain places would look like your highways or back roads? A damn nightmare, exactly. Sometimes I just have to kind of laugh because if I don't, I'll start crying because I sit and think, I can't believe I've been dealing with this for so long of what I do, how I do it. What can I teach somebody else? How can I make somebody else not feel the way I feel? Because it'll drive you insane, especially when you think you know it all and then you get put in your place by spirit. That's a tough one to take. And I've taken it a couple times, times three, times four, times five. But remember, I'm doing this because I'm constantly learning. So, yeah, it's going to kick me around a little bit. It's probably going to kick everybody around. And that's why I said when you're doing all these different, even if you're just one that's type interested and want to go to an event, just make sure you keep yourself safe. And you keep yourself safe by just putting a bubble around yourself. You can still enjoy yourself. You can still have, things happen while you're there, but at least you know you're just a little bit protected so nothing horrible can happen. And also remember when you leave some of these places, especially these public events, when you're leaving that building, you should always turn to that building and say, "You need to stay here. I have nothing to offer you. You're not welcome to be with me." And then just turn around. Don't look back. Get in your vehicle and drive away. And I got to tell you, it's that easy. A lot of people don't think it is, but it is that easy. We can set those boundaries. Now, when you're working with a lot of negative energy, yeah, they don't listen. And I'm going to be very truthful, they don't listen. They don't know boundaries. They don't know respect. They don't know any of that. But just the little things that you can help protect yourself, you can actually enjoy the paranormal field. You can enjoy all the rest of that kind of stuff. But you can also do it without getting hurt. Probably sound like I just been babbling and babbling because these are the things that just really get up under my skin because I see so many people not do it. and knowing that I was that those people thinking I'm invincible. And even if you're a skeptic, you're going to be the first one they're going to attack. Just going to throw it out there. They're going to come after you more because that skeptic's coming in. I don't believe in this. I'm just here because they are here. Nothing's ever happened to me. I need to have proof. I dare you to show me proof. I dare you to do this. Well, they're normally the ones we walk out first. And that's the thing. If you're around people like that, that's where you have to protect yourself because they will be, just like the moths to a light, exactly that way. Well, I hope you've enjoyed some of the stuff I spoke about tonight. And if you have questions, you can always put your questions in that on my messenger. I will return everybody's messages. And if you have a story you want to let me know about, I definitely would love to hear about it. I know sometimes it sounds like I'm just rambling and bambling on, but you got to remember in this type of field, so much goes on at so many different times, all in one time, that it just kind of rolls in together. But I want to thank you again for listening. And I want to say to you, I'll see you in the dark.